Hello, my name is David Turner and this is another episode of Lunar Poetry Shorts. I'm in Camberwell in South London and today I'm joined by Mishi Morath. Hello, Mishi.
You alright?
Yeah, good. Actually, as much as this podcast was never supposed to be a vanity project, I did sort of start doing these to get to chat to my poetry mates, of which Mishi is one, unashamedly. So we're going to start first with a couple of poems and then get to the questions.
Alright, straight into it. Best thing about this podcast, I've got to say, by the way, because I didn't listen to them until David told me about them. This will be a wonderful one, not because I'm in it, but to have two people drop me their ages. Bloody marvellous. But anyway, for those of you who don't know me, I don't drink anymore. I'm not going to go into detail, but I've been sober for 13 years, and the two I'm going to include in this segment are about drinking. And this one I wrote on a bus. I wrote a lot of my stuff on a bus because where it's easy to write, buses or trains, and this one's called Unclean. Moving toward the back of the upper deck. Mistake. I can see it's empty, but haven't seen why. My nose tells me though. Old boy, dirty clothes, unwashed, battered trainers with holes in. Once upon a time, that was me just over a decade ago, except I was a lot younger, though my body was as old as that chap is right now. This very moment, I am not thinking, what a pen and ink, have a wash, or simply downright rude, you smelly cunt. No, I am not judging, but in contemplation, rather than indignation, simply grateful that the drunk on the bus is no longer me.
Cheers, Mishi.
Do you want me to go straight into the second one?
Yeah.
The second one's one I wrote very recently, and it's football related, so I'm a big football fan. You'll get bored of this by the time this is over. Proud to support the greatest football team in the world, Dulwich Hamlet, good local side. I've supported them all my life. 41 years I've been supporting them, man and boy. Anyway, this one's about Paul Gascoigne, and as you know, or you'll be aware, a couple of weeks ago he was on the telly apparently, and everyone was saying how well he looked even though he was still drinking. And this one's called For Gazza. So you've been on the telly, excusing your drinking binge. From one alcoholic to another, I hope this doesn't sound like a whinge. For it's not okay to relapse, to binge drink and say everything's fine, just because it's behind your closed doors when you guzzle back the wine. Somehow you've got to pull yourself together. Who are you trying to fool? Those drinking binges will kill you. I hope that doesn't sound cruel. You can't go around making excuses, claiming a bit of this or that is okay. Until you accept you must stop totally, you'll be found lying dead one day. And it's going to be sooner rather than later, if you carry on the way you are. Alcoholism makes no allowances for the fact you're a former football star. I think despite their mock concern, the Red Tops want you to do a Georgie best. Reams of tales of crocodile tears, even before your later rest. I hope you overcome your demons, but that's got to come from within. So please stop making excuses and dump all your bottles in the bin.
Cheers, Mishi. So we'll move on to the first questions now. And as always, why poetry?
Why poetry? It's a bit long-winded, sort of. I've done poor people, and there is a Dulwich Hamlet connection. Like many, not everyone, bit stereotype, but like many South London boys, grew up on council estates. I wasn't the best behaved when I was a teenager. Some might say, right, annoying little shit, horrible bastard. It's down to interpretation. I'm sure you know the score.
Subjective.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I messed about at school. I left school at 16. I had no qualifications. A couple of, what were they called? Not the one below O level, CSEs, which were basically like O levels for fit kids or kids who didn't behave. And my only O level was English language. Okay. It's the only subject I enjoyed, and not I was ever the most articulate, as you can guess, but my English teacher was really good. I got on really well with my English teacher, Mr. Power, whoever he is now. I know he's been brown bread for years, but he taught me at school to have a little love of poetry, and I liked writing poetry in my mid to late teens, and then I just stopped, didn't give it another thought. And about, so I'm thinking in my head now, beginning of January 2013, there's a scheme at Dulwich Hamlet called the 12th Man, and it's about supporters donating funds, ring fence to help the playing budget. It was quite new, and at the time we had a right dodgy owner at the football club. And one long-standing fan came up to me in the pub and he said, off the record between me and him, he said, look, he's come into a little bit of money and he had £500 to spare, a one-off. And he asked about the people who won the 12-man, was it kosher? And he trusted me to say... So I reassured him on that. And we're talking in the pub for ages. I told you it was a bit long-winded.
That's right.
Anyway, and he said... Somehow he said I should write more. He loved reading my stuff in the old fanzines and all that. And somewhere he mentioned that he writes poetry. And I said, I sort of, fuck me, I ain't done that since I was a teenager. And he just said, we'll try it, he said. Just try and write one a day if that. He said, that might be too difficult. He said, but just do it and enjoy it. And I showed him a few and he encouraged me. And that was in January 2013. And in about September 2013, I discovered open mics and I went to Niles one, which the name is Poetry Unplugged.
Yeah.
And it sort of went on from there. And I don't pretend to be any good at poetry, or I don't know nothing about poetry. But it's something that I enjoy and it's something I've carried on doing. And apparently people like some of the stuff I read, some they don't, but I enjoy it and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. And as you... I was going to reference something there, but it's going to seem like a private in-joke, but we often talk about how you don't have any sort of artistic background, you come, like you just explained, you came to poetry like that. But I was going to ask you what your influences are as a writer and performer, and you might say fuck all, but if that's the answer, then that's the answer. But
yes and no. I mean, I won't say influences because I don't know anything about poetry. I mean, you've got a catchphrase which you put in Lunar poetry, and you mention it. Is it I fucking hate poetry? And you got a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know if you remember the who was it? Alan Bennett, who did the History Boys.
Yeah.
And in the film, there's one of the kids in there, and there was some throwaway line in the classroom which has always stuck with me. And he was asked what history was, and he said, "Well, sir, it's just one fucking thing after another." And that's all I know about poetry. It's just one fucking word after another.
Yeah.
I don't know rules and regulations. My influence in poetry is actually, I don't know, just real life. Which things I just write down. Either I see a story in the paper or something that's happened in real life, something I've seen, football, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of your stuff actually, when you see your open mics, a lot of your stuff does reference what might have been in the news that week, or current affairs and stuff. And you definitely do tend to take your influences more from what's round about you rather than what you know.
I think it's again, I try not to generalise. I've got obviously talking about me,
Yeah.
but I think it's very much a working class thing, and we're scared of poetry. Because it was all, when you were at school, a lot of it, everyone read Wilfred Owen, and then there's all that, I wandered lonely as a cloud, and what's all that bollocks about?
Yeah.
But it can be interesting, and you're just writing, and I think that's where a lot of mine rhymes a lot, and I don't mean to make it rhyme, but I think that's what you naturally assume poetry must rhyme. But there are no rules, as I say.
No, there are no rules. But if that's the way you're comfortable with writing, then there's no problem.
And before anyone asks, the people do ask me this, like a mate of mine, he's just quite proud actually, a mate of mine called Tony, he's just moved to Gillingham, and he started writing poetry himself and putting a few on his Facebook, and they are really good, but I'm trying to persuade him to find an open mic, but he ain't got the bottle for that yet. But if an idiot like me can, he can.
Yeah.
But I hold my hands up, if you want to call it cheating. I cheat with poetry, because when I'm stuck, I use a rhyming dictionary. That gives me ideas.
I don't think that's cheating. You're just
so it ain't all
you're just being honest. You're not cheating. I think that sort of thing goes on all the time. I'd say that sort of thing. I think it's a normal thing to do, and it's a natural thing to do. We're going to move on to another couple of questions. We'll have some poems first, if we can, Mish.
What have I got next? So you might hear some paper rustling. So I didn't chuck the other one down. These two football related. I'll say football. Proud to be Dulwich Hamlet, but I do like watching other football. And everyone assumes when you're a football fan that, did you see the game on the telly? Nah, mate, got no interest. And I think I'm weird. I know nothing about professional football. Not that I've got no interest in it. I see the names in the papers. But for me, I want to be at a game, watch a game. Professional football's out of my price bracket, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I always So am I rambling a bit?
No, no.
One of the things I always say, with the way modern football's changed, is like at the all-seater stadiums, and when you stand up and people say, sit down, and my catchphrase, turn around and say, fuck off, you want to sit down, go to the opera. But then you actually think about it, going to your Arsenals, your Chelseas, it costs more to watch a football match now than it does to go to the opera.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that? It's crazy.
It's crazy. And you are sort of sat down and forced to watch football like being at the cinema now.
Yes, it's sanitised.
It's just there may as well be a screen in front of you.
Absolute nonsense. And actually, you talk about screens. People pay now to watch games on a screen at a game when they can't get tickets or when their team's playing abroad.
Yeah.
What's all that about? But anyway, sorry. This one's called Post-Match Chill. And I wrote this after an away game last season. And a few Dulwich fans, they didn't have Sky in the bar at the ground we was at. And so we all went up to a local boozer to watch it. A couple of them got a soft spot for the Gooners. And it was Arsenal Man United. And this one's called Post-Match Chill. I'm in a pub full of Dulwich fans and I'm really bored to tears. We're here to watch the football and knock back a few beers. Well, all apart from me, got to stick to soft drink. I don't need alcohol for my buzz. I've got my boys in blue and pink. For my heroes, Dulwich Hamlet have just won at Arrow Borough. Doing it so professionally, 3-1 being rather thorough. It's always nice to socialise, a group of us in the pub. But truth be told, I don't watch telly football, and therein lies the rub. I popped out to the local shop, bought my lottery to fuel the dream. Just because I love my football, things aren't what they seem. If I was rich, I'd dip into top flight, but not on my current wage. I'm not totally against the Premiership, but high costs make me rage. It's Arsenal against Man United, I dread to think the price. If I could get to a live game, I wouldn't need to think twice. Watching this match on the telly, it's not the same as being there. No matter the glamour of the Premier League, if it's on the box, I don't care. You think you're oh so loyal as you sit there nursing your half. Without any dream of going to the ground, you're really having a laugh. Content to sit on the sofa down your local boozer. Never in 100 years a football fan, you're such a fake football loser. You've never known the magic of the terrace, band singers one up and down, as you spout your pub talk nonsense, articulating like a clown. I'd rather watch local county league down at the nearest park than get worked up by televised fantasy where the contrast couldn't be more stark. Give me the honest graph for non-league over millionaire prima donnas any day. Seeing it live on the box can't compare with Harrow Borough away. So I'll sit here chilling out writing this poem rather than watch this armchair caper, warming to the contemplation of the report in tomorrow's non-league paper.
Cheers, Mish.
And that was actually, I actually wrote that one in a pub while all my mates were around watching telly. And obviously I'm sitting in the corner not realising what I'm doing. Yeah. And there's one of our lads, Ben, and he's looked over and gone, oh look, Mishy's doing a poem. And I was so fucking embarrassed. But there you go. I didn't mean it in a bad way, but it was very embarrassing. Yeah. And this one's also football related. I'm also, I suppose, I wouldn't say political, but I'm like what I call, I don't label myself, but I'm a lefty, whatever that means. And this one's called Colourblind. And if you remember during the general election campaign, David Cameron was going on about multiculturalism, and one of his quotes was, "You can support Man United, the Windies and Team GB all at the same time. Of course, I'd rather you supported West Ham." Now, he's actually, for those who don't know, he's an Aston Villa fan, supposedly. The only connection between those two is they wear the same colours. And this one's about that. And it's called Colourblind. It's well known we don't trust politicians, always lying about their facts. But if you're from the terraces, this one stopped you in your tracks. For this was a schoolboy error that no fan should ever commit. There's absolutely no excuses, even if you know the colour of the kit. As if it didn't matter, such an easy thing to do. Not recalling who you support, but knowing it was claret and blue. Doesn't matter you're Aston Villa, but slip up and think West Ham. Well, ask those who stood on the terraces, see if they give a damn. Remember those things called terraces, fans penned in a cage. Politicians wouldn't go near football, it wasn't a vote-winning stage. Those of us who went to a match, we were the scum of the earth. Lowest of the low in society, as you gave us a wide berth. Bring back national service, hang 'em and flog 'em, you said in a rage, leaving decent law-abiding scousers to die at Hillsborough in a cage. We were all labelled hooligans, total scum with Nazi links, so different from those respectable Bullingdon boys who smashed up restaurants for their hijinks. Now that football's fashionable, you pretend you're like a common fan, not that you mix with the great unwashed, safe up in your executive stand. You only claim to be Aston Villa as your uncle was the main director. Maybe that explains how easily you became a West Ham defector. The best thing about your colours was the posh claret you drank, and never having to buy a ticket with your chairman baronet uncle being the one to thank. You might think your mistake was nothing shameful, a simple slip of the tongue, a bit of a fuss over nothing, like your politicians taking the bung. But for proper football fans, you're now a laughing stock. Equal to your record at number 10, you are a total cock.
Oh, too true, Mishi. So you touched on a bit earlier about like starting and reading for the first time at Poetry Unplugged and that, and how, I don't know, you sort of sounded like it was a bit embarrassing to sort of admit in public you were writing poetry and then coming along to read it. But how did you feel like you were received? Like, how was the reception by other people at the nights?
To be honest, because you concentrate so much,
yeah.
And if you get a ripple of applause, you think, oh, it's all right, you know. And poetry crowds are very polite, which is good.
Yeah.
It may be not so good if they think you're shit, but politely clap. But I've done a couple of poems at different places, and sometimes it's been stone dead, and I think I've hit a raw nerve for whatever reason, and I think it's, oh shit, that didn't go down too well. I might not read that one again, but I don't lose sleep over it. But generally, people have been quite supportive. They keep on using words like, oh, you're very honest, or you're different, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just words to me.
I wanted to talk about that actually because we spoke about it briefly the other night, and I'm glad you brought it up so that it didn't seem like me forcing an opinion on you. But I sometimes, because I've had it a bit as well. I mean, I sort of seem a bit more like an arty fucking wanker sometimes when I'm doing my stuff, so I get accepted a bit more. But
well, you've got the movement, you just haven't got the accent.
Yeah. I find it a bit patronising sometimes. Those words like about being honest, and you know, and sometimes it feels like you or I or other poets, maybe like Chip Grimm and stuff, are the token working class poets, and it makes the other lot, if we put them in that section, feel a bit better about the night they're running. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't really, because I don't really want to upset anyone.
No, I don't mean it in a rude way. I just mean it's sort of like, and it might even be unintentional. By you know,
turning it round, even before I've heard someone read, if they got a working class accent, I'm sort of like, my heart's going thump, thump, thump. Yeah. Oh yes, they're one of us. Yeah. Which is, I suppose, snobbery in reverse. I don't know, but I think sometimes actually, if I'm railing or ranting about posh people or gentrification in one or two of mine, some people think, oh, that was very funny, but I don't realise I'm actually might be taking, not them personally, but them generally, taking the piss out of them themselves, and they don't always get that, and I find that extremely funny.
Yeah.
But
the point's often missed, isn't it, with stuff
I
like
think so. But for me, people either like me or they don't at the end of the day. So some people are very patronising. I mean, there was one person who came up to me once, and he said something along the lines of, well, I don't really like football, but having heard your poetry, I'd love to get to a game. And I thought, oh, cheers, mate. But there's nothing I've ever heard more wanky in my life. But, you know, if they enjoyed it, that's good stuff. Yeah. But for me, I've got this awful expression. I'm now used to writing poetry and being a poet. I don't know whether I'm a good one, a bad one. You know, it's just a hobby for me. Yeah. But for the first few months when I was reading, because believe it or not, I find it quite difficult to talk to people if I don't know them. Yeah. And so eventually you get to know the faces on the open mic circuit. And there's one poet who's you've had him on here, I've got a lot of respect for, Sean Wycombe. Yeah. And he was very polite and friendly. And I had this awful phrase which he kept on picking up me on. And I kept saying, I'm not a proper poet like you. And I still occasionally use the proper poet thing, but
I think you've stopped saying that as much. I think you used to say it a lot. Yeah.
And I think that is very much a working class defence mechanism. People like me ain't supposed to do poetry. Yeah. But why not?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you feel like you're starting to fit in, or sorry, not because I don't think there was ever a time where you didn't fit in, but in your mind now, do you feel like you're a bit more part of especially the open mic scene, you feel like you're a bit more part of that, or have you just gotten used to it maybe?
I mean, I've got used to it, but I do definitely feel part of it. Yeah. I can approach people and chat to them, and And I now know when the majority of people are saying, "Oh, that was quite good. I enjoyed that." They genuinely mean it, and I've got used to the fact, like it or not, and I do like it really. I am a poet.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And it was no, it's nice because obviously we've known each other for a little. I mean, I think we met at an open mic, probably the first or second that I did. You know, I hadn't been.
No, I didn't realise. I thought you were super. That was the one in Dalston, Spoken Word London.
That's right. And so I've known you as long as anyone else I've known on the circuit, as it were. And no, it's nice that the first time you said that you accepted you were a poet, for better or worse, it was a nice thing because you are really good at what you do, and it's just nice that you feel more so that you feel part of something rather than it doesn't matter whether you're any good or not. You know, if you're enjoying what you're doing. You know, I happen to think you're a really good poet, and so do a lot of other people. But there'll be equally as many people who don't like your stuff because that's life, you know. But as long as I'm just interested to know, this is what I always ask people: if you ever felt like you didn't fit in at the beginning, but now do, you know, is that a realization that it was a problem in your own head rather than through anyone else's actions? You know,
maybe one or two of other people's attitudes, but I think you'll get that in life generally.
Yeah.
But I think I'm stumbling there, but I think it does go back to the fact that I have very little self-confidence. Yeah. But then, since I've been reading poetry, I am much more confident. And if I bore you with, I've just thought of something football related. Yeah. There's another club called Hitchin Town. They used to play us they was in the same league as Dulwich for many years, up until the 1990s, and non-league was reorganised, and they moved over to the Southern League, which is another league, same as the Isthmian League, but different part, same level, different, you know. Yeah. It was a geographical reorganisation. Anyway, so we never played them anymore. But earlier this season, or last season as it is now, there was a threat to their ground from some local cowboy charity that owned it, which basically wanted to asset strip and make millions. And there was a big local campaign in Hitchin, and I went up there as a Dulwich fan, and me with two other Dulwich fans from our supporters trust. I was there as an individual representing our club, and they were there representing the supporters trust. And I spoke out in favour, you know, obviously giving a bit of moral support. And I didn't realise it, but they were clapping, and I went down really well. And I'm not saying that because I did. It's just, but the point I'm making is, looking back with hindsight, I would never have been brave enough to give that speech or whatever if I hadn't got the experience of reading at poetry nights. So it's not just about poetry, it's about improving your life and, you know, making you more confident.
And finding a way to communicate, isn't it? You know,
sort of. I mean, people would say I do that anyway. Yeah. But what I portray publicly is maybe not what I feel inside. Yeah. And that's another thing about poetry. Is that not only do I enjoy doing it, but it's also, for lack of a better word, it can be very therapeutic. And if it clears my head a bit, for whatever reason, I'm not going to give incidents or whatever, it doesn't matter, because there's so many different ones. But if I'm feeling down and I write a poetry, I feel better, you know, so.
So on that note, maybe we could take is it just one more poem to finish?
I just got two small ones at the end.
Two small ones, that's it.
Is that a subtle hint? I'm taking too much time.
No, go on.
Emma said about feeling down and all this, so I'm going to finish with two lovely morbid ones. This one I wrote after there was a phone-in on LBC about support from some bishops on assisted dying. And this is called When the Time is Right. As time creaks on, I start to fear what will happen when the end is near. There's nothing wrong with me yet, no need to panic. I'm not going crazy from my normal to manic. But when I die, I want it to be quick. Scared of suffering, terminally sick. If that ever happens, I don't want to linger. Time to go with the flick of a finger. Is it too much to ask to turn off a switch? A painless death without a hitch. I don't want to suffer right to the end. Give me the option of a man's best friend. One last farewell, a time to say goodbye. Small prick of the needle, a bit of a cry. At the moment you can only do this if you're comfortable or rich. Flying off to Switzerland when pain's too much of a bitch. Poor people like me have only the nearest bridge. If we want to die with dignity, then sleep in a mortuary fridge. You preach God's will, saying your prayer. Watching me dosed up with morphine as if you really care. Pumping my body with a multitude of drugs. prolonging my suffering from white-coated thugs. You warn me of Harold Shipman stalking the ward, or just let me take my chances and die of my own accord.
Cheers, Mishi.
And this last one was one, it's quite a topical one, I suppose. It's about when Charles Kennedy died a few weeks ago, and it's called Another One Bites the Dust, and it's about people's reaction to death and how people were so nice to him. So this one's called Another One Bites the Dust. I hope when I drop dead, you're honest about who I am. I'll be the one who's brown bread, so you won't be able to give a damn. If you're the one who never liked me, don't pretend that you did. Just say it like it really was when they nailed down my coffin lid. I don't want a ton of plaudits like for all that Charles Kennedy chap. If you must say it how it was, none of that make out you respect me crap. Because if you're someone who I don't like, I'm not going to pretend to cry. In truth, I will be smiling when it's your turn to die. It's not that I didn't like Kennedy, but bottom line was he's one of them. Even though he seemed a decent bloke, at heart he was still a Lib Dem. Yes, he died far too young and had a drink problem like me, but it's not as if I'm celebrating, more indifferent than full of glee. He was a politician from the telly. I didn't share his views. In fact, the only thing I'm sorry about was that it was him and not Simon Hughes.
Cheers, Mishi. So, last question as always. Is there anything you would recommend to people listening to go out and see or watch or do? And it doesn't have to be anything to do with poetry, it could be anything.
Well, I'll give two answers to that. The first one is the most obvious. If you love football, there's a local non-league team in South London called Dulwich Hamlet. www.dulwichhamletfc.london.
Yep.
The pre-season starting in a couple of weeks. First game's Wednesday the 8th of July, home to Peterborough. Have a look on the website. Even if you don't love football, you'll love Dulwich Hamlet. And that's my wonderful plug out of the way. So I couldn't resist that.
Yeah. But
the other thing is, this isn't aimed at people in the poetry world. Well, I've just thought of one actually. So there's going to be 2 points.
Yeah.
One is, I love open mics. I love going everywhere. Being able to say what you like. But when you look for your venues, and your one, Silence Bound the Tongue, isn't one of them, because that's a good one. Could we find somewhere that's got affordable bar prices, whether they're alcoholic or not? Because it can get a bit expensive and you feel obliged to support the bar. Yeah. Just a little hint there, we ain't all rich.
I agree there completely, yeah.
But anyway, this one is aimed at people like my mate Tony from Gillingham, people like my mate Darren, who's just moved back to the London area. Darren's a mate of mine. I know he's been to poetry nights when he lived in Northampton, but he's never read. I was trying to get him persuaded to read a paper tiger the other night, but he bottled it. If you work in class and you write poems, there's nothing bad about it. And if an idiot like me can read poems, it's nothing special. Just read from the heart and write. It's something there to enjoy. We're not supposed to enjoy it. That's my cliche. But do it and you can become a proper poet like me.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to remember, if you go to an open mic thing, you don't get judged. They're not the audience.
It's not like a comedy night, nothing like that. You don't get heckled or booed.
And people are really supportive, especially if it's your first couple of nights and stuff, and you don't get ripped to shit.
I mean, in fact, at any poetry night you go to, or the vast majority, if you haven't been to that particular night before, or even if you've been to others, or you haven't, it's your first time reading, you get extra support because you always mention, tonight we've got a poetry virgin, and people are even more supportive. And they don't expect you to be like some top poetry star like us at the festival hall. They'll, just welcome you.
Yeah, I think that's it. We'll put the link to Dulwich under the video on YouTube, so if you want to, you better click on that and go and have a look at them. Cheers, Mishi.
No
Thanks
problem.
very much. That's it.